Components are the heart of React's powerful declarative programming model. React Router is a collection of navigational components that compose declaratively with your application. Whether you want to have bookmarkable URLs for your web applications or a composable way to navigate in React Native, React Router works wherever React is rendering. Hello everyone, I'm Anika from Edureka. Welcome you all to this session on React Router. Before starting the video, let me take you through the agenda of today's session. I will begin with discussing about what is React. Moving on, I will discuss React Router, and then we'll see some of the advantages of using React Router. Then I will show you how to install and set up the environment to use React Router. Afterwards, we'll see the different components of React Router, and before wrapping up the session, I will discuss the types of React routers used. Along with explanation, I will show you the demo also, which will ultimately lead to a small React application using React Router. Starting with what is ReactJS. So React is a JavaScript library, which means it is a collection of code on which many developers are working for the last decade. It allows us to build user interfaces for websites and also for other applications like mobile applications, desktop application, and VR applications. Basically, React is more concerned about building interfaces so that the users can interact with, getting data from the users and then display the information. So I can sum up React as an open source JavaScript library developed by Facebook used to develop interactive web and mobile user interfaces. And it is component based, where the components that utilizes the expressiveness of JavaScript with the HTML-like template syntax are used. Now, before explaining React Router, I would like to give you a brief to routing. So routing is the ability to move different parts of an application when a user enters a URL or clicks an element like link, button, icon, image, etc. within the application. Routing is basically required in transitioning from one view to another in an application. In simple words, I can say routing is a process in which a user is directed to different pages based on their action or request. Now we are good to go to understand React Router. React Router is a standard library system built on top of the React and used to create routing in the React application using React Router package. It provides the synchronous URL on the browser with data that will be displayed on the web page. It maintains the standard structure and behavior of the application and mainly used for developing single-page web applications. It enables the navigation among views of various components in a React application, allows changing the browser URL, and keeps the UI in sync with the URL. ReactJS Router is mainly used for developing single-page web applications, and it is used to define multiple routes in the application. When a user types a specific URL into the browser, and if this URL path matches any route inside the router file, the user will be redirected to that particular route. React Router plays an important role to display multiple views in a single-page application, and without React Router, it is not possible to display multiple views in React applications. Most of the social media websites like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Airbnb, etc. uses React Router for rendering multiple views. To make use of React Router, we have something called as React Router DOM. What is this React Router DOM? Which is actually the React Router data object model. It contains the DOM bindings for React routers, in other words, the router components for our websites. And if we talk about React Router Native, it contains the React Native bindings for React Router. Now moving ahead, let's see the advantages of React Router, because of which we are using React Router. So in React Router, it is not necessary to set the browser history manually, and link is used to navigate the internal links in the application. It is similar to the anchor tag, which we know is very simple as we have learned in HTML. It uses switch feature for rendering, and the router needs only a single child element, so no complexity at all. And in React Router, every component is specified in. Now talking about the installation part, so what we can do is we can just go to our Node's official website and we can just download the Node.js, whatever the configurations of your Windows are, we can just download it. And once we have set up our Node.js on our PC, what we'll do is we will just install create React app. Okay, that will be very helpful while creating the application. The demo which I'm going to show you in the later part of the video, in that it will be very helpful. The command to install create React app is npm install -g, then create -react-app. I'll just click on this, and this is how it is going to install Create React app. It will take quite some time, but I already have it installed, so I do not need it. So I'll just stop this thing over here. And after that, when we will start off with our demo part, we will execute one more command that will be npx create react app, and we'll give the application name. That we will see in later part of the video when we'll start off with the demo part while creating the application itself. So this is what you have to do. Then you will have to go to the directory where you have created the application, the folders. So with this, we have successfully installed our Create React application, which will help you to directly create an React application. We can just add the components to that. We can change the code and we can just modify it, and we'll be good to go. Now let's discuss the components of a React router. So there are 4 major components of React router, which are frequently or always used whenever we are working with the React router. So the first one is browser router, then we have root, then we have link, and then we have switch. So talking about browser router is a router implementation that uses the HTML5 history API, which includes push state, replace state, and the pop state event to keep our UI in sync with the URL. And it is the parent component that is used to store all of the other components. Moving to root. So root is the conditionally shown component that renders some user interface when its path matches the current URL. Talking about the link. So link component is used to create links to different routes and implement navigation around the application, and it works like HTML's anchor tag. And talking about the switch. So switch component is used to render only the first route that matches the location rather than rendering all matching routes. Although there is no defined functionality of switch tag in our application because none of the link paths are ever going to coincide, but let's say we have a route that there is no exact in here, and then all the route tags are going to be processed with which start with slashes. This is where we need switch statement to process only one of the statements. So this we will see by a demo. So now I'll just open my VS Code, the editor which I am using. You can use whichever editor you want to use. And then we'll see how to include these components of React router on the basis of the part of URL that the router will use to track the content that the user is trying to view. React router provides 3 different kinds of routers. Now we'll see the types of React routers. So they are namely memory router, browser router, and hash router. Talking about the memory router keeps the URL changes in memory, not in the user browsers. Keeps the history of the URL in memory and does not read or write to the address bar, so the user cannot use the browser's back button as well as the forward button. It doesn't change the URL in our browser. It is very useful for testing and non-browser environments like React Native. Talking about browser router, it uses HTML5 history API, which includes push state, replace state, and pop state APIs to keep our UI in sync with the URL, and routes as normal URL in the browser and assumes that the server is handling all the request URL and points to root index.html. It accepts force refresh props to support legacy browsers, which doesn't support HTML5 push state APIs. And talking about this hash router, so hash router uses client-side hash routing. It uses the hash portion of the URL, that is window.location.hash, to keep our UI in sync with the URL. And hash portion of the URL won't be handled by the server. The server will always send the index.html for every request and ignore the hash value. It doesn't need any configuration in the server to handle routes, and it is used to support legacy browsers which usually don't support HTML push state API, and it is very useful for the legacy browsers or we don't have a server logic to handle the client side, and this route isn't recommended to be used by the React router DOM team. And the syntax for these kinds of router we will see just in the import statements. We just have to change it and we will alias it as router. Let me just show you. Now what we'll do is we will set up our React application. So we'll create a React application using create React app. And for that, let me just go to my command prompt. There, let me just go to the desktop. So I'll change the directory over here. I'll move to desktop. And then I'll run this command. npx create -react -app. And let me call this app as Edureka routing. Now this command will create. So now here you can see is we cannot create a project name Edureka_routing because of the NPM naming restrictions. Name can no longer contain capital letters. So we'll just give it as Edureka routing. Now here you can see creating a new React app in this folder. Okay, inside the desktop we'll be getting a folder for React application that will be known as Edureka routing, and it will take some time. It will actually take some time, like around 2-3 minutes. And once this will be done, then what we'll do, we'll move to our this application folder that is Edureka routing, and then we will install our React router DOM, which I had explained you. It contains the DOM bindings for React application. We'll make use of npm and we'll install React router DOM, and then we'll start adding the components. I'm using the Visual Studio Code as editor. You can make use of any other editors as well. Now, as you can see, the dependencies have been installed. And you can see over here as well, like some 29 packages have been added. So with this create React app, we can simply create our React application and we can just add the codes, we can add the components, and we'll have our React application created. With this, we have successfully created our React application, and the name of our React application we have given as Edureka routing. Okay, as we are going to learn routing with this. So with this, you can see over here, happy hacking, and now we are good to go. Now what I will do is, first we will move to the project directory or the application directory which we have created right now. We'll give cd and Edureka_routing. And now what we'll do is, we will install the React router DOM for our this application. So we'll give npm install React router DOM. Okay, router DOM. And we will give a space and hyphen save. This command we have to give. All right. This will install our React router DOM for our existing application, which we have just now created with the help of create React app. It will also take some time, but less than the previous one. And yes, with this, we have successfully installed our React router DOM for our Edureka routing application. Now what we'll do is, now we will start creating or adding the components to the application. Now what we'll do is, I'll just close this up, and in my VS Code, I'll open the folder which has my applications. So in this, in desktop, you can see Edureka routing is there. I will just open this one. Now here you can see our application or the main folder is Edureka_routing. Then here we have node modules. All these libraries and the dependencies are here. Like you can see Babel and all for ES6 and all. We have Jest for testing. So all these are available. They have been automatically added with the help of create React app. And then here in this public, we can see here is the index.html. So if we want to change the title or the HTML part of our application, we can just make changes over here, or we can just create the new one. We can just create a whole new code as well. So I'm not going to all these HTML and CSS part majorly because we are here to learn about routing. First, what we'll do is we'll go to our src folder, and here you can see we have app.js file. So this component, this is actually where we will be using routers. React routers, we are going to make use of them over here in this application, so that we'll provide the links and the switch and everything, which will be linking to the other components. So what we'll do is, first of all, let me just remove whole code because this is a default one. This create React app is for the default one. It is like React's default application which has been created. Now we have to create the components, add them with the help of routers and all. Now first, what we'll do is we'll import our router. So what we'll do is we'll write import. So as we have learned about the routers, so we'll give browser router. As we have seen, this is the first component of React router. So we'll give browser router and we'll alias as router. Then we have the other component, that is root. Then we have link, and then we have switch. And this we have to get from React router DOM. Now here, be clear with the thing that here this browser router is aliased as router. Now to use React router, what we'll do is we'll create some components in this React application. So what we'll do is inside our this src folder, what we'll do is we will create one more folder, and that we will make it as component. So we have one more folder inside the src, that is component. Now here in this, we'll create other files, other JS files, which are actually the components. So let me just add one file as home.js. Then we will create one more about.js. And then we have contact.js. So these three components I have added. Now let's add some code to this so that will be available on the screen whenever we will be executing our application. So let me just go to home and let's add some code. Like the first thing is we have to import React from React, and then we will write the function or the reducer, we know function home, which return heading will write like welcome to Edureka. And that's it. And then we'll close this function and we'll write this export default app. Default. We'll just save it. And then next is our about component. So in this we'll simply, let me just copy it from here. We'll just paste it and we'll make the changes over here. Here is about. Now let me write something about Edureka. So Edureka is an e-learning platform. And let me give you some more thing like know more about Edureka here. Now here I'll make use of the anchor tag and I'll give the link www.edureka.com. Now here we have the link. And I want to display this as well. So what I'll do is I'll just type it over here as well. And with this we have closed our anchor tag. Now when we have created this one and the anchor tag is closed over here, now one more thing is we have to return something. So here in return, I'll put all this inside a div. So this one is also ready. And here I'll have to give this about the function which we have just now created. Let's save it. And now moving to our contact component. So again, let me just copy this thing and we'll put it here. Now here what I'll write is like for queries, contact here. Now no link, I don't want to give any link over here. Now let me just put the number. Let me just put this over here. And one more thing, see, and if I want to put it in the next line and all, so I can just give the br tag as we know in HTML. And no need to give it like this. Now let me give one more. Yeah. Now in this about, what we'll give is, we'll give the, in place of about, we'll give contact. Let me just remove this anchor tag. Now let's make a little change over here. Let me just put it inside the address so that it will be like a single element over here. And let's just remove this heading tag. All right. And we'll just give it as. So we have created three components and we have added them. The home component, then the about component, then we have our contact component. Now in this app.js, what we'll do is we will make use of our React router and then we will link these components. Now what we will do is we will start adding the components to our app.js, the components of React router over here. Now as we have already added this browser router as router, now let me just create class app extends component. And then we'll give it as render. We'll make use of render function. Then we'll return router. And inside a div, we'll provide the class name. Let's give it as app. And then we have closing tag for router. Now moving ahead, what we have to do is inside the div, we have to put the links as well. Link is also one of the component of React router. Before moving ahead, we can just see, let me explain you the components which we have created, especially talking about the props associated with the root component. We'll see over here, as you can see, the exact, right? This is used to match the exact value with the URL. For example, here we have given exact and then the path that to home component. And this will only render the component if it exactly matches the path. if we remove exact from the syntax, then UI will still be rendered even if the structure is like slash and home like that. And then we have something called as path over here. So this specifies a path name we assign to our component, the path name which we have assigned, like contact, home, about, like that. And then we have something called as component. It refers to the component which will render on matching the path. These components which we already have, contact, home, about, all these. And as we have seen in this, we have switch as well. This switch will be used to render a single component, wrap all the roots inside the switch component. So we have just wrapped it around. And this link we have used to create the links to our components. It uses the toProp to describe the location where the link should navigate to. So here you can see this toProp. This toProp has been used by this link component. Now let's see the output of this application or this code which we have written. Now we will see the UI of our application. It's taking a little time, so it will get executed. Browser will be launched here. So you can see over here on localhost 3000, it will be launched. Here it comes. Now this is the page. Okay. Now whenever I'll click on home, now we have moved to our home page. This is happening with the help of our router, the components which we have used. The link component, we had made use of browser router and the switch. Now when I click on about us here, you can see the URL is also changing. And with this, if I'll click on this link, so this is the normal HTML link part. With the help of anchor tag, I have just redirected to our Edureka homepage. Let's just go back, and then on contact us, you can find it over here. So whatever we wanted to display in our application, that's been displayed in the different pages. And we are redirecting to these pages with the help of React Router. And here is the URL. And the application name is like React app. We can make change in that also. Let me just go to this one. And in the index.html, we can just change the name of the title. Like we can change the title. Let me just give it. So here I've just made it as Edureka. Let me just save it. And then it will automatically be reloaded. Here you can see now the name of the application is here, Edureka over here. So this is the output which we are getting. So this is how finally we have successfully implemented the navigation in our React application using the React Router. Now, as earlier we have talked about the types of React Router. So let me just show you here. So as you can see in this app.js, we had made use of browser router. So we have hash router and memory router. What we have to do is just in place of this browser router, we can just simply put memory router and everything else will be same, and we can just alias it as router. Similarly, for hash router, we just have to make change in hash. In place of memory, I have kept it as hash. Now it became hash router. And the functionalities which are supported by hash router, memory router, and the browser router will automatically be implemented. So no need to change anything else. We just have to import that type of router and we will alias it as router itself. And we have already discussed what are the functionalities and how these routers are implemented according to their types. With this, we have come to the end of the session. Hope it was useful for you and you have enjoyed it. Do not forget to like the video and subscribe the channel to watch more videos from Edureka YouTube channel. Until next time, happy learning. Thank you.